While He-Man is the lead protagonist of the Masters of the Universe franchise, Cringer is his most loyal ally, and one might even say that they are one of the most iconic duos in pop culture. However, the creators took things to a new level when they introduced Battle Cat, aka Cringer's more aggressive alter ego. He first appeared in the DC Comics series in 1982, and soon became one of the most iconic characters in the Masters of the Universe franchise. Today, we'll be looking into Battle Cat's origins and telling you all about how Cringer became He-Man's fiercest ally. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The real-world genesis, from Big Jim to Battle Cat. Many fans have wondered where exactly Battle Cat first came into being, and it seems like his origins can be traced all the way back to 1976 at Mattel. His cat body was designed after Big Jim, a character that was such a bare-bones concept that Mattel released several toy lines based on him, including Big Jim as a spider, a spy, a cowboy, and so on. The toy line gave Mattel enough flexibility to reuse old toy concepts and package them into their Big Jim line, and one of the Big Jims in their Nature series was reused as a panther in Mattel's 1978 Tarzan gift line. This figure was about 10 to 12 inches tall, and it was eventually reused in 1982 as Battle Cat's original mold and stripe design. However, the issue was that every single character in the Masters of the Universe line was about 5.5 inches tall, and there was no explanation for one singular character to be about 12 inches tall. They decided to use the mold to introduce the cat as a steed, and Mark Taylor then designed a fantasy-themed saddle that would allow He-Man to sit on Battle Cat without falling off. They also fitted Battle Cat with a helmet that acted as a mask and shielded any hints of the Big Jim mold design.
Cringer became the mighty...
The canonical original story, episode 96, Battle Cat. Battle Cat's origins were first explored in the 96th episode of Filmation's Masters of the Universe animated series, which begins with an extended sequence where Man-at-Arms, Teela, and Adam discuss how Orko is quite irresponsible and annoying. The entire discussion agitates Orko, who then tinkers in Man-at-Arms' laboratory to make a potion that would mess with Cringer and even make him brave. Much to no one's surprise, the experiment is a failure, and Orko ends up conjuring a transparent cat demon, who's soon trapped in a bottle. Moreover, Man-at-Arms seems furious with Orko, and he even scolds him for a fair bit before finally telling all about the first time Adam met Cringer. It is then revealed that Adam first stumbled upon Cringer on a solo camping trip at the young age of 12. Even though he used the device to scare off another saber cat, he soon noticed that Cringer was badly injured, and he didn't have it in himself to abandon him. He even thought of Cringer as the cutest kitten ever and asked Man-at-Arms to rescue him and treat him until he got better. He then named him Cringer after the tiny kitten got scared of a bunch of children or the disembodied head of the sorceress, and one of his key personality traits was just how fearful he was. Several years down the line, Malactha's archaeological team discovered a temple in the Tekon jungle, and Marlena then asked Man-at-Arms to investigate it. Naturally, Adam, Teela, and Cringer accompanied him on this journey, and they soon sensed that something sinister was in the air. They found themselves at the temple's entrance by nightfall, only to realize that it had been locked. While Man-at-Arms suggested that they should wait until the next morning to explore it, Adam and Teela decided to look into it, and succeeded in opening it just a tiny bit before giving up. The next day, Man-at-Arms ignored a warning at the temple gate and blasted it open, only to find a blue demon named Gedge hurling himself at them. In a moment of panic, Adam used the sword and transformed into He-Man, and even aimed the sword at Cringer without having any idea what might happen when the tiny cat would be exposed to the sword's energies. Much to everyone's surprise, Cringer immediately transformed into the mighty Battle Cat, and this laid the foundation of his origins, at least in the animated series.
Now, run for that door!
The transformation mechanism and character dynamics. In DC Comics, Cringer was actually introduced as Battle Cat's alter ego, who typically accompanied Prince Adam in his adventures. He would also throw a tantrum whenever something disrupted his peace, but this was only for a short period of time, as he stepped up to be He-Man's choice of transport as soon as he transformed into Battle Cat. In the comics, Cringer turned into Battle Cat in the Cavern of Power, and he would go from the size of an ordinary tiger to an enlarged beast who was large enough for He-Man to ride on his back. In this way, Battle Cat was essentially a gigantic armored tiger equipped with a saddle, ferocious claws, and the strength to lead an entire army of men into battle. In some versions, he also had the ability to speak and act as a trusted confidant to He-Man. He was introduced as Cringer's alter ego, and while the tiny cat was lazy and cowardly, Battle Cat was eager for action and quite headstrong, which made him a foil to his regular self. Both these versions had green bodies with orange stripes, but Battle Cat was much larger and more muscular than Cringer. In Filmation's animated He-Man and the Masters of the Universe stories, the entire Cavern of Power origin story was replaced with a transformation sequence that relied on He-Man's sword. In this sequence, Adam would point his sword at Cringer and call upon the power of Grayskull to turn him into the Battle Cat at a moment's notice. Design evolution and Mark Taylor's creative vision. Mark Taylor was credited for making most of the design choices for Masters of the Universe, and he also brought Battle Cat's character to life with his creative vision. Initially, the layer artwork suggested that Taylor wanted the transformation sequence to begin with Cringer gradually increasing in size, while his face would transform into Battle Cat's fearsome face. This would be followed by a flash that would envelop the screen before revealing Battle Cat in all his armored glory. In an interview with Battle Ramblog, Mark Taylor explained that he designed the armor and helmet for Battle Cat in an attempt to reuse the cat from the Tarzan line because he genuinely liked the sculpt on it. The helmet's design was quite striking, and it almost depicted Battle Cat as a mythical beast who was almost twice as tall as He-Man. Taylor further explained that he wanted He-Man to ride on a huge armored cat to establish his status as the protagonist that no one would dare mess with. He further elaborated that the head armor was inspired by some of his childhood sketches that were engineered for cost and molding ease. The cat was also given a signature green and orange color scheme, and Taylor stated that he had fought tooth and nail to give him a color that was not very common in action toys. He wanted Battle Cat's colors to pop while also making him look somewhat alien, and that he most definitely did not want the character to look like a real tiger. While Taylor was satisfied with the color scheme he had picked out, he also stated that they changed these features soon after he left and that he would personally never try to depict Battle Cat or He-Man as silly characters.
You can't frighten me anymore.
I could in the pit. It's why...
Evolution across media adaptations. While we've looked into the comic and Funimation series versions of Battle Cat, Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revolution has introduced several new story arcs that could change Battle Cat's status quo in the franchise. In the original series, He-Man was typically accompanied by Battle Cat, and they made for a powerful duo who stuck together in almost every face-off. However, Kevin Smith had a different vision for the new series, and the first part's finale involved a scene where He-Man trusts Orko and Man-at-Arms with his Sword of Power in the hopes that their powers are enhanced to a point where they can cure Eternia of Motherboard's technovirus. Up until this point in the franchise, He-Man had only shared his sword powers with Battle Cat, making him his sole trusted ally in dire situations. However, these new changes that seemingly represent the nexus between magic and technology do raise questions about Battle Cat's status quo in the franchise. In one of the scenes, He-Man also managed to share his power with Teela, which was quite a surprising development in the show, as she usually appears as one of the backup heroes against Skeletor's forces. Now that she's undergone a unique transformation of her own, the new series has pretty much revolutionized her spot as He-Man's equal instead of a backup. This also raises concerns about how Cringer or Battle Cat might fit into the equation now that there are other characters who can act as He-Man's ally. Of course, Teela's transformation did not take away from Cringer's transformation into Battle Cat, as He-Man shared his energies with him off-screen to turn him into his ride for the next battle. He was also seen riding Battle Cat soon enough, reassuring fans that He-Man had not replaced his trusted steed as a go-to partner in battle. However, it does create a shift in their dynamic, and fans have even wondered if this new series might switch things up to a point where the iconic duo now turns into a trio that includes Teela as well. While this would only increase Teela's importance in the show, it does come at the cost of Battle Cat's importance in He-Man's story arc, even though the latter doesn't have any intention of giving up his trusted steed. The creative team behind the legend. Battle Cat's creation was largely credited to Mark Taylor, who came up with all the initial character designs to sort out the specifics of Cringer's transformation into a fearsome tiger. Additionally, Dorothy Catherine Fontana worked with her husband Richard Fontana to co-write the episode that explained Battle Cat's origins, and there's no doubt that her storytelling elevated this character to a whole new level. Finally, Battle Cat as well as Cringer was voiced by Alan Oppenheimer, who not only did an excellent job of voicing this dual role, but also voiced other characters on the show, such as Skeletor and Man-at-Arms. Marvelous verdict. And with that, we've explored Battle Cat's origins, right from his character being based on some Mattel molds for Big Jim, to his story arc across DC Comics and the Filmation animated series. While Cringer was an adorable scaredy cat, Battle Cat emerged as a fierce and enigmatic partner who always stood by He-Man's side and led him to the front lines. We hope you enjoyed exploring his origins and his eventual position as He-Man's fiercest ally, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone!